We kick off the story with a girl showing up at a certain place, mentioning that this spot is the Nagumo Detective Agency. Right after that, we get a flashback of our protag, which basically gives us the lowdown on the guy. His name is Keiichiro Nagumo, and in the past, he was extremely famous. A legend, a machine, a beast in a cage who solved cases not even the cops could touch. On top of his insane potential as an investigator, his charm had all of society in the palm of his hand, from fan clubs to TV interviews. But, unfortunately, as they say, all good things must come to an end. And for our man Nagumo, it was no different. That flashback was actually a dream, cut short by a ringing phone. And yeah, back in his glory days, this dude was an awesome detective, a well-respected name in his field. But nowadays, his struggle is just to scrape together enough cash to pay rent at the end of the month. To make things worse, we can see time hasn't been kind to his body at all. With his youth gone, what's left is a busted-up spine that reminds him every single day that he's become a totally out-of-shape old guy. This time, we see his back was exceptionally cruel, locking up on our protag right when he'd finally landed a gig, something that hadn't come along in a long time. Wincing in pain, he drags himself to the door as if his life depends on it, and that's when she appears, the girl from the start of the episode. She arrived right at the moment the dude was wrecked on the floor, which he says gave him a great view, but it also earned him a baseball bat to the back. And apparently, it actually helped the dude's spine, because he stood right up. Goes to show, some bad things come for a good reason. He asks who the hell she is and what she wants, and she explains she came looking for something specific. But the more she empties her bottomless pockets, the more it seems like she's lost the thing. Until it hits her. The thing was where it always is, on the back of her neck. From there, she pulls out an old flyer Nagumo wrote ages ago when he was desperate to recruit help. Before she can even explain, he cuts her off, saying there's no way he's hiring her. And that, of course, gets the girl pissed, and the first thing that came to my mind with her scream was, "You gotta love the crazy ones." And man, this anime is already looking promising. He tries to justify himself, saying a high school gal can't be a detective. She fires back that she's not a gal, but he points to her makeup, her low-cut shirt, and her short skirt. I mean, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck. However, in her opinion, that's a painfully outdated and kinda gross take, to be honest. And he says he really couldn't care less about being called gross by someone like her. Even though it seems like a lost cause, she insists the case he's getting into seems way too much for a washed-up old man like him to handle alone. At that, Nagumo lights a cigarette, trying to reclaim a shred of his old swagger, and lectures her, saying that being a detective requires patience. No slip-ups. No hesitation. No delusions. It's a job for capable people, not for a gal like her. And as he's looking her up and down, she nearly impales him with a spear. That's when she explains, despite her looks, she practices a style of karate called ryukyu. Curious, Nagumo asks why she's so dead set on being a detective's assistant, and she replies it's because she wants to become a real detective someday, a dream she's had since she was a little kid. And her pocket hoarding habit is just one of the many skills she's picked up along the way. As she's telling her story, he tries to make a witty remark, but she just lands a punch, busting the guy's nose without a second thought, and makes it clear, she's just a humble detective in training, and she already knows exactly what he was about to say. After all, she watched every episode of Detective Furuhata Ninja Bureau yesterday. First, she deduces he was going to say he barely has any work and no money to hire help, to which he confirms, putting on a fake tone of surprise. She asks if she passed the audition, but Nagumo just tells her to get lost and find something better to do with her life. The scene then changes, and out on the street, the detective looks at a photo of a woman named Tamira Takako, 27 years old, married to his client for 2 years. About 2 weeks ago, the client began to suspect she was cheating on him during work hours. From the first moment he saw her, Nagumo thought she looked guilty. Still, nothing happened all week. Today, though, instead of heading to her office, she turned the other way and walked into a coffee shop. The next step was obvious: follow her without drawing attention. But this place? It was one of those fancy, flowery cafes, where a rough-looking guy like him would stand out like a sore thumb. So he decided to tail her from outside. However, guess who shows up, folks? Yep, Miss Faith in the Crazy Ones herself, mentioning how cute the cafe is and telling them to go inside already. He wonders what the hell is happening, and she says she gets the situation and has a plan. What if she pretends to be his much younger girlfriend? Then him walking into a frilly cafe like that wouldn't look so suspicious. And even our man Nagumo has to admit, it's not a bad plan. And so, the newly formed couple goes up to the counter. A cheerful barista asks what they'd like. Embarrassed, Nagumo tries to read the menu, but everything's so fancy and over the top, he can't understand half the words. The girl rushes him, so, flustered, he mutters, "Just coffee." Wrong move. According to her, that's literally the most suspicious thing he could have asked for. So she takes charge and orders for both of them, 2 venti hazelnut, vanilla, almond, and caramel frappuccinos, with an extra shot of espresso and whipped cream topped with extra chocolate. Basically, a bottled heart attack in a cup, and probably the doom of our protag's wallet. When the sugar bombs arrive at the table, Nagumo mentally prepares for instant diabetes. But trying to change the subject, he asks if she ever thought of applying to other agencies. She shrugs and says his office is just really close to her house. Lighting another cigarette, Nagumo sighs and reminds her he's just an old guy who's been in this business for 20 years, and it hasn't been easy. She ignores him. Her eyes are fixed on Tamira Takako, and she deduces right away what it's all about. He's trying to catch her cheating. He grunts that she's not wrong about the case, but he needs photos, evidence, proof that she's stepping out on her husband. Ironically, the girl and the detective start arguing out loud about whether he's being too suspicious by the way he's staring at the woman, and they're loud enough to catch Takako's attention. Thinking fast and trying to play it cool, the assistant swoops in with a spoonful of frappuccino and flies it toward Nagumo's mouth like a little airplane, feeding him in the most awkwardly romantic way imaginable. And unbelievably, the plan works. Then the girl casually points out that in the age of smartphones, people are way more aware. Nobody wants to get caught doing something dumb and end up exposed on the internet. At which point Nagumo, in turn, admits he doesn't even know what a smartphone is, and the girl's head nearly explodes at the revelation. And me? I'm just cracking up at how funny this anime is. That's when the girl reveals something surprising. While Nagumo was tailing the woman from the cafe, she was tailing him. And the fact he didn't even notice just proves he's not losing work because he's old, but because he's lost his instincts and his awareness. Hearing this, Nagumo admits that maybe his intuition isn't what it used to be. The problem is he only knows how to do things the old school way. And since that's what made him famous, it's even harder to let go of that method. He asks if she believes he was once famous because of it, and she very seriously says yes. However, at that exact moment, a man in a suit approaches Tamira Takako, and Nagumo recognizes him. It's her boss. He watches them embrace and immediately assumes she's guilty. Because in his view, when it comes to cheating, it's much easier to prove someone's guilty than innocent. After all it takes is one photo of the lovebirds being unfaithful and boom, case closed. As he says this, he pulls a camera from his pocket, making it obvious as hell what he's about to do, which sends his assistant into a total panic. Thinking fast again, she snatches the camera from his hand and takes a selfie with Nagumo as cover, sneakily including Takako and her boss in the background. When the client receives the photo, he's crushed. He sees his wife clinging to another man and walks off looking like the saddest man alive. After he leaves, Nagumo asks when the girl plans to go home. She protests, reminding him how helpful she was during the investigation, only to be discarded like trash. Recognizing her potential, Nagumo says she can visit the agency whenever she wants, but makes no promises about her being his assistant. Seizing the moment, she snatches his coat as payment for her services. Nagumo doesn't seem to mind. He asks what she thought of the investigation, and she casually replies, "It lacked a bit of excitement," the very phrase he used to say in his youth and during his fame. And that disarms him, as he realizes she knew who he was. And before she leaves, he asks for her name. "Mishiro," she says. After their goodbyes, Nagumo heads back to the agency, only to throw out his back again and trip on the first step, face-planting at the entrance. Concerned, Mashiro runs back to help, but also doesn't miss the chance to make fun of the poor guy. The scene changes, and the next day, the dynamic duo is already on another crucial case for the neighborhood, finding a missing cat. Unfortunately, they find the wrong feline, and since you can't just toss a cat out, Mashiro decides to adopt it and names him Cerberus, the new agency mascot. Nagumo, being the buzzkill that he is, points out that Cerberus is a dog in mythology, but Mashiro couldn't care less about such useless details and sticks with the name, welcoming her new pet. The cat immediately sneezes right in her face, and her reaction is not nearly as loving anymore. The confused old lady asks what's going to happen with her case. And well, the scene changes again, and Mashiro proudly shows off a ridiculous poster she made for the agency. Although she swears she has serious artistic talent, Nagumo crumples the monstrosity without a second thought. The poster said they do anything, which, to him, is an insult to the noble profession of a detective. Regardless, Mashiro confesses she's already spread over 500 of those flyers all over town. And before Nagumo can even start yelling about printing costs, Cerberus walks in with a bug in his mouth, causing the detective to flee the scene immediately. Mashiro, ever the opportunist, grabs the bug and chases after her insect-phobic boss just to mess with him. As revenge, Nagumo throws his assistant out the window and orders her to take down every last one of those posters she put up. However, a woman passing by witnesses the chaos and calls the cops. Nagumo, totally terrified, explains that the girl would be fine even if she fell from the 5th floor, and then greets his new client. The woman says she saw the poster claiming Nagumo could do anything, so she came to hire him to deal with a beehive at her house. But Nagumo flatly refuses. After all, with the confidence of a world-class detective, he admits he won't take the case because he's deathly afraid of insects. He thinks about sending Mashiro to handle it, but first, he asks the client how to make a call on a smartphone. When he gets through, Mashiro grumbles that she's still busy tearing down posters, but Nagumo insists it's an emergency pest control job. Realizing this could be her big chance to prove herself, the girl gets pumped, ready for the mission, and rushes to the address. When she arrives, she finds an old building with "Crime Association" written at the entrance. Mashiro starts to suspect the whole beehive story might be a metaphor, and that she's not walking into a nest of insects, but a den of actual criminals. Whatever it is, she's determined to crush it. After all, she's seen too many action movies to chicken out now. This is her time to shine. With a pest extermination guide in hand, Nagumo starts coaching her over the phone. Step 1. Get as close as possible to the hive. Once she finds an entrance and sees how many bees there are, she needs to block it off. That's when Mashiro walks into a room full of sketchy-looking thugs who can't believe their luck, an innocent little girl wandering into their territory out of nowhere. Without missing a beat, Nagumo gives the order, "Time to hit him hard, use the insecticide." At that moment, Mashiro pulls a can of pepper spray from her pocket and sprays it directly into the face of a bald guy in front of her. Next, she dodges a katana swipe, right as Nagumo warns her about the sting she might get. Dudes, this anime is just too good, it's getting hard to narrate without bursting out laughing. Moments later, a thug with a gun opens fire, forcing the intruder to hide behind a desk. As payback, she whips out a flamethrower and torches a few of the gangsters. Their screams make Nagumo realize things have taken a very, very bizarre turn. Left all alone, the last thug starts sweating bullets as he watches the little monster who just wiped out all his buddies. The hunger in her eyes makes him instantly regret ever joining the Yakuza, especially if the only reason was because he liked the fancy suits. But then, Mashiro drops the flamethrower. The guy sees a sliver of hope and lunges at her with a knife. And it's at this moment that Nizutaro, 22 years old, 2 years into his Yakuza career, feels death breathing down his neck for the very first time. With that, he drops to his knees and desperately begs for his life. With the job done, Mashiro calls the boss to give him the good news, at which point he asks what the bees looked like. Glancing at the trembling mess that is Nizu, she casually replies, "Long legs." And that's all Nagumo needs to hear to figure out they were just wasps. Later that day, A TV report at the agency announces that the secret office of the crime association was completely wiped out by an unknown assailant. When Mishiro explains that she was the one behind it, our man Nagumo nearly has a meltdown. But she calmly adds that the mission wasn't all bad, it even brought in some useful results. For example, the one and only Nizutaro, now a former Yakuza member. After being spared by Mishiro, Nizu sees it as a second chance at life and pledges eternal loyalty to Mr. Nagumo's agency. "Well, then," says Nagumo, "go make us some coffee." As he gives the order, the client casually asks if the beehive has been removed from her house yet. And with that, the episode ends, and holy crap, what a trip was that. Did you guys enjoy all this craziness? Want to find out where this agency of nutjobs is headed? We'll find out those answers and more in the next episode.